If you are watching this video in quarantine, under a stay-at-home order, or with your new best friend, your laptop, then you may already know a thing or two about loneliness. But in these times, understanding how we are feeling, what loneliness is, and how it can affect us may be more important than ever. So, let's get to know what loneliness is all about, based on the research. What is loneliness? One way to characterize loneliness is as the feeling one experiences as a result of an unmet need for belongingness. We, as humans, all have the fundamental desire to form social relationships with other people. Satisfaction of the need to belong can boost our psychological and physical well-being, whereas frustration of this need can lead to a variety of psychological and physical health problems. A key indicator of an unmet need to belong is the experience of loneliness. But one key takeaway is that loneliness isn't the same thing as not having many friends or being alone. Rather, it has to do with the subjective perception that your social relationships are not living up to the social relationships you desire. Now that we know what loneliness is, let's try to understand how loneliness operates. While most individuals experience a transient state of loneliness every now and then, loneliness becomes a real problem when it is a chronic feeling we can't get out of. One of the most pernicious aspects of loneliness is that it can feed off of itself. We need to identify the behaviors that sustain loneliness so we can counteract these unconscious inclinations and choose alternative behaviors that will help us feel happy, healthy, and connected to others. One way loneliness sustains itself is by making us more likely to view ourselves in a negative or self-deprecating manner. Instead, we can take actions to help us feel good about who we are. For instance, we can treat ourselves to a luxurious bath or get in touch with a close friend who reminds us that we matter to the people in our lives. Loneliness can also make us feel as though we are not in control of our own life outcomes. While there are many aspects of life amidst coronavirus that are outside of our control, we can still challenge this perceived lack of control by taking ownership of our own immediate environment. For instance, we can establish new routines that demonstrate to ourselves that we can use the time we have in the most meaningful and productive way, even right now. Finally, we should be wary of letting loneliness influence how we engage in our relationships with others. Under the influence of loneliness, we might be inclined to engage in self-focused behaviors during social interactions, for instance, by overly disclosing information about ourselves during conversations with others. Instead, we can think about meaningful questions to ask our friends so that everyone feels seen and heard throughout the exchange. Now that we have considered how loneliness can compel us to act, let's review some of the productive steps we can take in response to the inevitable and natural feelings of loneliness that we are feeling in these times. First, we can recognize that loneliness is normal, especially now. We can accept loneliness as a consequence of being human and identify ways to take better care of our need for belongingness, even if your contact is virtual. But what's most important is that we each get to know our feelings of loneliness for ourselves, so that instead of following our loneliness down an even lonelier path, we can choose to take steps in a more uplifting direction.